We find ourselves today in 2025 with the ability to, as an Anishinaabe, to actually vote in the settler elections. Having a vote in the settler election gets us the ability to have a willing party on the other side of the table.
Tonight, efforts are underway to get out the vote in a riding the AFN says First Nations could decide the outcome of.
I'd like them to hear that they got to stop this, that they got to stop hurting people and taking kids away from families who love them.
Adopting Indigenous children into non-Indigenous homes must stop, says a family in Saskatchewan. And it's a celebration of Indigenous excellence. The Inspire Awards are this week, and they're being hosted by Miss Universe Canada, Ashley Collingbull, who will tee up this year's ceremony for us. Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. A grassroots campaign is underway in Northern Ontario to encourage First Nations people to participate in the upcoming federal election. The campaign is based in Sault Ste. Marie, which falls within a riding recently identified by the Assembly of First Nations, where Indigenous voters could affect the outcome. APTN's Mike McDonald reports.
The people behind the Indigenous Community Engagement Campaign say First Nations voices and votes matter now more than ever.
We do have, a significant number of our people that are eligible voters, and having said that, we wanted to encourage that population to get out and vote.
Nadine Roach and Kathy Surrett are the co-organizers of the campaign. Surrett says getting First Nations people to vote can be a challenge.
I have heard our own Indigenous people, give their reasons that they don't want to be a part of the colonial elective system in Canada, and they claim not to be Canadian. I'm not Canadian. I am a First Nation person. I'm not Canadian. Okay, that's your belief, but the truth of the matter is that we are Canadians. If we are registered with the federal government of Canada, we are Canadian citizens.
Dean Sayers, who served as chief of nearby Batchewana First Nation for 2 decades, says First Nation citizens should not look at voting as giving up their nationhood.
We find ourselves today in 2025 with the ability to, as an Anishinaabe, to actually vote in the settler elections. Having a vote in the settler election gets us the ability to have a willing party on the other side of the table. So we have that ability without giving up our nationhood. We never succumbed. We never surrendered our inherent ability to be members of the Anishinaabe Nation, and we'll continue to do that, and at the same time have the ability to vote in Canada's election.
Cassidy Lane Wigwas, a local youth and community advocate, says she has recently come to realize the importance of her vote as a First Nations person.
I didn't always consider my vote to be an important one, but now at this time and all the times before, it is important. That one vote does mean everything, and we do matter as a nation and as First Nations of this land, and we can use that strength and our unity to make this go the way that would benefit us.
The Indigenous Community Engagement Campaign will culminate with a gathering on April 24th at the Delta Sault Ste. Marie Conference Centre. Federal candidates in the Sault Ste. Marie-Algoma riding have been invited to attend. Mike McDonald, APTN National News, Sault Ste. Marie.
Thanks, Mike. There is a new riding in Nova Scotia covering most of Cape Breton and part of mainland Nova Scotia. It's a big area for a well-known Mi'kmaq Liberal candidate, Jaime Baptiste. Angel Moore reports.
Jaime Baptiste launched his campaign at his headquarters in his home community, the Eskasoni First Nation, this past week. He says so far, the feedback in the new riding is positive.
That I'd be knocking on doors of Conservatives who are saying that they don't trust Poilievre. It's a theme that I've heard across is there's a fear. At the end of this election, there's going to be an important negotiation for the future of our country and the future of our economy.
The new federal riding is called Cape Breton, Canso, and Tigonish. Baptiste was the Liberal MP in the former riding of Sydney, Victoria, first winning in 2019 and then being re-elected in 2021. The riding includes 5 Mi'kmaq nations: Buckingeg, Bolidek, Wegogama, Wegmaccook, and Eskasoni, which is a fishing community that Baptiste says is concerned about the uncertainty caused by the American tariffs.
Whether it's from the Chinese or from the Americans, are going to have an impact in our communities. And so we're all wondering right now and trying to do our best to ensure that we are ensuring that we're really looking at how we can best ensure stability in the economy.
The 5 Mi'kmaq nations are about 14% of the voters. Eskasoni is the largest Mi'kmaq nation, with a population of over 4,000 people living there. Chief Leroy Denny says Indigenous people need to vote.
And I know across the country that there's many write-ins that the voices of First Nations can call this election, you know. So our voices, our votes are very important. So I call on all our Mi'kmaq brothers and sisters to get out and vote.
The NDP candidate is Joanna Clark. Last year, she ran in the provincial election but was unsuccessful. She is hopeful for a win on the federal stage and is ready to work with Mi'kmaq communities.
To keep in mind, and it kind of ensures accountability and best practices, and that would be nothing about us without us. So ensuring that the proper partnerships, communication, and connections are made before we see action on those items.
Clark says tariffs are one part of voters' concerns.
So we still have a lot of fragile systems in place in our country, and so I think it's still important not to forget about the state of housing, affordable living, what our access to healthcare looks like, what our access to connectivity looks like.
After multiple requests, Conservative candidate Alan McMaster was not able to make himself available for an interview. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, also known as Halifax.
The Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs held a press conference with Manitoba Grand Chiefs in Winnipeg today to discuss First Nations federal election priorities. Key issues highlighted included treaty implementation, Jordan's Principle, public safety, and health care. The panel included AMC Grand Chief Kyra Wilson, SCO Grand Chief Jerry Daniels, MKO Grand Chief Garrison Setti. The panelists urged candidates to prioritize funding for First Nations-led policing and healthcare to address gaps in services and systemic racism. They're also demanding action on the bureaucratic mismanagement of Jordan's Principle. The Grand Chiefs encouraged First Nations electors to head to the polls and educate themselves on party platforms. On the topic of treaty implementation, Setti had this to say.
The failure for those treaties to be implemented is the cause of many of the social issues we face in our nations, and it's time for governments to be true to their constitution. It's legal, it's binding, but no government has ever really enforced these treaties. Now is the time to implement our treaties.
Make an informed vote. Take a look at the evidence. Next time a federal election comes, I don't want to be sitting here, or I don't want the Grand Chief of our 11 nations to be sitting here talking about the same issues with no change. Our people need change.
Still to come here tonight, a family in Saskatchewan is calling for changes in the child welfare system. That story and more coming up after the break. Welcome back. A family in Saskatoon is fighting to stop the adoption of Indigenous children into a non-Indigenous system and bring the ones already in the system home. Video journalist Rachel May spoke with them about their vision for change.
I'd like them to hear that they got to stop this, that they got to stop hurting people and taking kids away from families who love them.
As a 60 Scoop survivor, Joanne Ebach understands some of the realities of living in care and wanted to protect her young family members from experiencing the same fate. She is speaking up now, hoping to stop the removal of children from loving homes.
Yeah, I'm ready to fight because I'm tired of social services walking in our family's life and just walking over us and ruining children.
Ebach's own child, Jazz Morgan, was taken away from her in 1988 because of a birth alert. Jazz was adopted by another family less than a year later. Jazz says they were abused while living with this adoptive family. Jazz says they're determined to make sure children in care know that adults are fighting for them to come home to their families.
There's just this healing that needs to happen in our families too, that's like embodying physically, because we've just been quiet for so long and been holding this inside.
Morgan now leads an Indigenous policy research group called Deadly Collective. Deadly Collective says they are pursuing legal action against the Saskatchewan Ministry of Social Services and encourage everyone to advocate for Indigenous family-centered foster care and adoption.
Like, it's not even about money, it's just about letting all the kids know someone's fighting for them, and that like this will have a bigger epistemological impact.
For their part, Saskatchewan's Ministry of Social Services sent an emailed statement. It says, in part, the government of Saskatchewan recognizes Canada's long and painful history of policies that impact Indigenous families. We work closely with our Indigenous partners, communities, bands, and First Nations child and family services agencies to help keep families together, build capacity for extended family caregivers, and keep children connected to their culture and community. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Meanwhile, as we first told you yesterday, a new study is highlighting the disparity in child and family services contact with First Nations and non-Indigenous families over a 20-year period in Manitoba.
1 in every 2 First Nations parents had involvement with CFS in this time period, which was almost 4 times higher among First Nations parents than non-First Nations parents.
It's among the findings of the joint study by the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs and the University of Manitoba. Tracked data from 1998 to 2019 for more than 13,000 First Nations and just under 107,000 non-First Nations parents. It found 27% of First Nations parents experienced the removal of 1 or more children, and 10% had their parental rights terminated. That's 6 times higher than a non-Indigenous family. Researchers are recommending First Nations-led care systems and reunification homes. The authors also suggest full government assistance and public housing for parents with children in temporary care, preventative supports, and holistic wellness for at-risk parents.
Our nations, we have the solutions. We just need the support to ensure that we have capacity and the infrastructure to make sure that our children and families are supported in community.
Manitoba's Families Minister says the report is a reflection of historical child welfare in Manitoba. She says the system was predicated on Indigenous families being labeled as unable to care for their children.
My number one focus is to decolonize child welfare. My number one focus is to ensure that children are with their families, in their communities, immersed in their language and their culture and their traditions.
Fontaine says the province is working to keep families together by transferring power to Indigenous child and family service agencies and encouraging placing children with their own families for care. After years of inaction from the province of British Columbia, the Sewali First Nation recently gathered with community members to clean up a problematic homeless encampment that sits at the entrance of the First Nation near the Chilliwack River. About 75 people came together to help clear out this encampment, which they say has been around for years. Sawali leadership says the encampment caused serious harm with illegal drug activity, mounds of garbage, used syringes, open fires, contaminated water, and unsafe interactions with the community. The band says years of trying to address their concerns with the provincial government went nowhere. So they acted alone to exercise their inherent rights. No one was at the camp when the cleanup first began. First Nation is located just south of Chilliwack.
The bigger picture is that there are mental health issues, drug addiction problems, and the cost of living has everyone afraid that they're just one paycheck away from this as well. Now I ask all of you, who has the ability to make those changes? Sawali has sat at many tables and brought up our issues with this encampment. We've talked about the fears some of our members have been going through with this area.
The Yukon government has purchased a former pet store beside the White Horse Emergency Shelter. The Yukon Housing Corporation bought the building from the store's former owners for $650,000. Government officials say the building will be used to offer services for vulnerable people. They also said the purchase will help complement its downtown safety plan, which is aimed at improving public safety concerns surrounding the shelter and downtown Whitehorse. More information about the purchase is expected to be announced in the coming weeks. Time for one last break, and then we'll hear from Miss Universe Canada, who is the Master of Ceremonies at the 30th Inspire Awards this week. Stick around. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And it's nap and cuddle time for brothers Star and Angel, two growing kittens that want to make you feel like taking a nap. Thanks to our Tina House for sharing. You can send your photos to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, sunny and 6 in Fredericton, sun's out and 5 in Halifax. -2 with snow in Kuujjuaq, 3 below and flurries in Nain. Sunny and 7 in Montreal, 0 in Chibougamau. 9 in Sault Ste. Marie, sunny and 6 in Ottawa. 4 in Thunder Bay, 8 in Sioux Lookout. 6 for God's Lake, Norway House and Churchill. Cloudy and 9 in Winnipeg, 7 in Dauphin. A sunny 14 in Regina and Saskatoon. 17 under sunny skies in Meadow Lake, 13 in La Ronge. In northern Alberta, 15 in Fort McMurray, Peace River, and Grand Prairie. 17 in Edmonton, 20 under sunny skies in Lethbridge. 14 in Vancouver and Victoria, 19 in Kamloops. 10 in Prince George, 8 with rain in Smithers. -1 in Old Crow, 7 above in Whitehorse. Cloudy and 4 in Yellowknife, sunny skies and 5 in Norman Wells. -2 in Sax Harbor, snow and 0 for Pawlatuck. -4 in Baker Lake and Chesterfield. 12 below in Resolute, -4 in Iqaluit. Scientists say they've genetically engineered 3 wolves that may resemble the extinct dire wolves, according to the company trying to bring back the lost species.
Taken a gray wolf genome, a gray wolf cell, which is already genetically 99.5% identical to dire wolves, and we've edited those cells.
The wolf pups are between 3 to 6 months old and sport long white hair and muscular jaws. They already weigh around 80 pounds and are expected to reach 140 pounds. Dire wolves went extinct more than 10,000 years ago and are much larger than gray wolves. Their closest living relatives, independent scientists say, for now, all science can do is make something look like something else, not fully revive extinct species, and it's unlikely we'll see dire wolves roaming North American grasslands anytime soon. Sounds like Jurassic Park. The 32nd annual Inspire Awards are in Vancouver this year, and leading up to the award show is a national youth conference called SOAR, where youth get to hear from other inspiring Indigenous peoples. Our APTN video journalist Tina House joins us from the event.
Thank you. We're here in downtown Vancouver as Inspire is currently taking place. Joining me today is Ashley Callingbull, Miss Universe Canada. Ashley, nice to see you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Excited.
And you're hosting the award show tomorrow night. Tell me about that.
Yes, so I'm hosting the awards tomorrow, and it's a big celebration of all the Indigenous excellence and talent we have in our country, but also sharing their stories and of what they've overcome and how they are champions in their own right. And it's all about really showing the next generation that we can become anything that we want to be.
Absolutely. There's been so many people honored over the years, including yourself.
Yeah.
Tell me about when you were honored here.
When I was honored, I still wear my pin. It's something I'm really proud of. I received the Youth Award, and to receive that at such a young age and know that I had that impact, it makes me think, like, what else can I do? Who else can I open the door for? So it's really about empowering the next generation and creating more opportunity for other people. So this has created a lot of opportunity for me.
Well, speaking of creating opportunity, I mean, you're now competing worldwide.
Yeah.
I saw you down in Mexico competing for the big title. Tell me about that experience for you.
Well, I ended up making history as the first Indigenous woman to compete at Miss Universe. It's something I'm really proud of. I won't be the last, that's the most important thing, but I came top 12 at Miss Universe, and that was one of the hardest things because there are 130 women competing from around the world, and you automatically make the cut down to a top 30. So it was really eye-opening for me. I learned a lot about myself, but I thought I represented like my nation and my people with pride and with honor, and that's the best part for me.
That's beautiful. Now tell me about the next couple days. Now today there's lots of workshops happening for youth. Tell me a bit about that.
So yesterday there was speeches, and today there's workshops, there's a career fair going on. There's a lot of opportunity for the kids to connect and learn from the people that are speaking. This is their opportunity to really like ask questions, find who they want to be, and maybe step out of their comfort zone and see like, maybe I want to try that, you know, and learn like all these inspiring messages of to never give up.
Beautiful, never give up. I like that. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Nice to see you. Congratulations on all your success. We're also very proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate
And we'll see you on the stage tomorrow night at the awards show.
Yes.
Back to you in studio.
Good stuff. Thanks, ladies. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Wednesday. For more, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy McGuitch, thanks for being with us. Have a great night.